What if I told you that the greatest prison ever built has no walls, no bars, no guards, and that you, right at this very moment, are probably locked inside it? There is a lie so ancient, so sophisticated, and so deeply rooted in the structure of civilization that most people don't just believe it. Most people defend it tooth and nail, as if their very lives depended on it. And here's the most disturbing part. This lie doesn't crush the weak. It crushes precisely those who dare to think. You see, for centuries, philosophers, mystics, and solitary thinkers have tried to warn humanity about something hiding in plain sight. Plato called it shadows on the cave wall. Nietzsche called it herd morality. Krishnamurti said it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. All of them, in different eras, in different languages, with different words, pointed to the same invisible wound. And that wound has a simple name: consensus. The lie that unites the masses is the illusion that whatever everyone believes must be true. It's the silent assumption that if millions repeat the same thing, if millions follow the same path, if millions agree on the same rules, then that path must be the right one. But think about this with me. There was a time when everyone believed the earth was flat. There was a time when everyone believed slavery was natural. There was a time when everyone believed women shouldn't vote, that children should work in factories, that questioning authority was a mortal sin. The consensus wasn't truth. The consensus was just collective fear disguised as wisdom. And here's the cruelest mechanism in this entire machinery. The lie doesn't need violence to sustain itself. It sustains itself through something far more powerful: comfort. When you believe what everyone believes, you belong. When you think the way everyone thinks, you're accepted. When you follow the script that society wrote for your life, be born, study, work, get married, reproduce, retire, die, you're rewarded with approval. And approval, for the human brain, is almost as powerful as food and water. Studies in social neuroscience show that group rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. In other words, disagreeing with the majority isn't just uncomfortable. To your primitive brain, disagreeing with the majority is a death threat. And that's why most people don't disagree. Not because of stupidity, not because of weakness, but because of a biological programming that was useful when we lived in tribes of 50 people on the African savannah, but that now, in the 21st century, has become the heaviest chain we carry. Now, what happens to those who, even in the face of this pressure, dare to see beyond? What happens to those who feel in their chest that something is wrong, that the script doesn't make sense, that life shouldn't be this exhausting repetition of purposeless obligations? What happens to those who awaken? They get crushed, not with violence, with isolation, with ridicule, with the silent look of disapproval that says, "Who do you think you are to question what works for all of us?" And this crushing is so efficient that many of those who awaken end up falling back asleep. They end up doubting themselves. They end up thinking the problem is them, not the system. If this idea has already resonated with you, if at some point in your life you felt like you were seeing something that no one around you seemed to see, then pay very close attention to what comes next. I need to tell you about a phenomenon that psychology calls social conformity. In 1951, psychologist Solomon Asch conducted an experiment that should disturb any human being who considers themselves rational. He placed a group of people in a room and showed them lines of obviously different lengths. The task was simple: say which line was longer. But there was a catch. Everyone in the group, except one person, were actors instructed to give the wrong answer. And what happened? In 75% of cases, the real person, the only one who wasn't an actor, agreed with the wrong answer. They saw the truth with their own eyes. They knew which line was longer. But the silent pressure of the group was enough to make them deny their own perception. Now multiply that by an entire lifetime. Multiply that by every decision you've ever made based on what everybody does. Multiply that by every dream you buried because someone told you it wasn't realistic. Multiply that by every time you silenced your inner voice because it was saying something different from the chorus. How many times have you betrayed yourself to belong? How many times have you worn a mask that wasn't yours just to be accepted at a table that wasn't even your table? I know this hurts. I know that looking at this head-on is like staring at the sun. Your eyes burn. Your first instinct is to look away. But it's precisely in that pain where liberation lives, because the first step to getting out of a prison is recognizing that you're inside one. Think about the people around you. Think about that friend who works 12 hours a day at something they hate, but says, "That's just how it is. Life is hard." Think about that family member who spent their entire life following rules they never questioned, and now, at 60, has an empty look in their eyes that they call maturity, but which is actually resignation. Think about yourself. Think about the times you felt an inexplicable restlessness, as if something inside you was whispering that there's more. That life shouldn't be this exhausting race to nowhere. That whisper isn't weakness. That whisper is the most lucid part of you trying to wake you up. If this idea has resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss this journey. Now, I need to be honest with you. Waking up isn't pretty. Waking up isn't that glorious moment the movies portray, where the epic music plays and everything makes sense. Waking up is uncomfortable. Waking up is realizing that many of the things you believed were crutches. Waking up is looking at the people you love and realizing that some of them are deeply asleep and that you can't force them awake. But there's something that happens after the discomfort that nobody tells you about. After the initial pain passes, after the ground beneath your feet stops shaking, something extraordinary begins to emerge. Clarity. A clarity that doesn't come from books, doesn't come from gurus, doesn't come from any external source. It comes from within. It's as if, by removing the layers of collective lies, you finally found something that was always there. Your own voice. Not the voice that society programmed into you. Not the voice of your parents, your teachers, your bosses, the media, social networks. Your voice. The one that knows, without needing proof, what is true for you. The Stoics called this living according to your inner nature. The existentialists called it authenticity. Carl Jung called it individuation, the painful and sacred process of becoming who you truly are, separating yourself from the persona, the social mask you built to survive. And here's the most beautiful and most terrifying paradox of this journey. The more authentic you become, the less you fit the mold. The more you free yourself, the less the old relationships, the old environments, the old habits make sense. And that's scary, because real freedom doesn't come with applause. Real freedom comes with solitude. But, and pay close attention to this, it's a different kind of solitude. It's not the solitude of someone who's been abandoned. It's the solitude of someone who chose to walk on terrain that few have the courage to step on. It's the solitude of the eagle that flies above the clouds, where the air is thin, but the view is infinite. How do you apply this in practice? First, start questioning your certainties, not other people's certainties, yours. Ask yourself, do I believe this because I thought it through, or because I absorbed it without realizing? Second, tolerate the discomfort of not belonging to every group. You don't need everyone's approval to exist. Third, seek quality company, not quantity. A single person who sees beyond is worth more than 1,000 who repeat the same empty script. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, protect your inner silence. In this world of constant noise, of notifications, of opinions, screamed from every digital corner, your silence is the fertile ground where truth grows. Without silence, there is no listening. Without listening, there is no awakening. But there's an even deeper secret that very few people know. The lie that unites the masses isn't just a lie about the external world. It's not just about politics, religion, economics, or culture. The most devastating lie is about yourself. It's the belief that you are what they made you. It's the silent conviction that you are your job title, your salary, your degree, your appearance, the opinion others have of you. This is the root of all the other lies. Because when you believe you are the reflection in the social mirror, you become hostage to the mirror, and whoever controls the mirror controls you. The ancient Vedantic texts of India said this thousands of years ago with a phrase devastating in its simplicity: Tattvam asi, thou art that. Not your name, not your story, not your fears, something prior to all of that. Something that existed before you learned your first word, and that will continue to exist after all words have gone silent. When you understand this, not intellectually but viscerally, something changes forever. You stop needing approval because you understand that no external gaze can define what you are. You stop fearing rejection because you realize that what's being rejected is the mask, not the essence. And you stop fighting against the masses because you understand they're not your enemies. They're just sleeping people, dreaming the same collective dream, trapped in the same invisible chains from which you've begun to free yourself. And compassion replaces anger, and clarity replaces confusion, and peace replaces the inner war. So, here's the truth I want to engrave in your mind today. The lie that unites the masses only has power as long as you can't see it. The moment you see it, truly see it, it begins to dissolve, not all at once, not without pain, but inevitably, like ice under the sun. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to fight the system. You just need to have the unwavering courage to be true, to yourself, first, always. And the world around you will begin to reorganize itself around that truth, not because you forced it, but because authenticity is the most magnetic force in the universe. It attracts what is real and repels what is false. And when you live like this, you no longer need the lie to belong, because you belong to something far greater. You belong to yourself. If this video touched something inside you, if any of these words ignited a spark you already felt but didn't know how to name, then I ask you, leave your like, not for me, for you, as a symbolic gesture that you chose to stop and listen to your own voice today. Comment below what resonated with you the most, because when you put into words what you felt, you anchor that transformation into reality. Subscribe to the channel if you want to continue this journey with me, because this is just the beginning. And please share this video with someone you feel needs to hear this, someone who might be trapped in the lie without knowing it, someone who might be crushing themselves for trying to be free. Sometimes a single video, a single sentence, a single idea is all someone needs to start waking up. Be that catalyst. The world doesn't need more sleeping people agreeing with each other. The world needs you, awake, whole, real.